I suppose in hind... I suppose... Gosh dang it, why are you doing that? I suppose you could call this a zippity-doo-dah day. Everyone seems to be in a suing mood, and I don't know if it's because everyone is just really genuinely terrible people and deserve to be sued, or if we're all just cooped in the house, or maybe it's a little bit of both. They've always been terrible, awful people / companies, and now that we're stuck in the house, we have nothing but to think about it. It's like, yeah, that we think about it, those companies really are terrible. But anyway, hey everyone, this is Kevin, the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to my channel, and we've got basically a bunch of news stories all rolled into one, as everyone and their mother is being sued today, or so it seems. From this article from CNBC, Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, and Uber Eats are all being sued over restaurant prices amid the pandemic. Now, we talked about this a little bit yesterday during the live stream. This video is not going to be a live stream video because I want it to actually be focused, but we talked a little bit about how San Francisco, and to my knowledge so far only San Francisco, basically put a cap on all these food delivery companies on their commission fees, because these companies could charge up to a 30% commission fee, which is why a lot of small businesses never get involved with any of this, because 30% is a lot of money. I mean, in fact, usually that 30% is the profit of the food item, so it's not really worth it to most small businesses to have food delivered. And hey, we're in a pandemic, and these delivery services are extremely popular. They're growing in popularity. The vast majority of people, including yours truly, have been using them as opposed to going outside, although I have gone outside a couple times, and now I have my mask, so I might use these services less. And these companies pulled that old saying card of don't let a good crisis go to waste, and they started to price gouge the restaurants and the customers. San Francisco put a stop to it, but others decided they want to sue them for it. So let's look at this. Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, and Uber Eats were sued on Monday for allegedly exploiting their dominance in restaurant meal deliveries to impose fees that consumers ultimately bear through higher menu prices, including during the pandemic. In a proposed class action filed in Manhattan federal court, three consumers said the defendants violated U.S. antitrust law by requiring that restaurants charge delivery customers and dine-in customers the same price while imposing exorbitant fees of 10 to 40% of revenue to process delivery orders. The consumers from New York said this sticks restaurants with a devil's choice of charging everyone higher prices as a condition of using the defendant's services. Basically, they have a monopoly. Now, this is why monopolies are bad. And I'm not just talking about rideshare. I'm talking about streaming video and music and everything. You do not want a monopoly. You do not want a monopoly. Never, ever, 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 ever. If you want a monopoly, you know what? You got to go back to kindergarten and figure out why monopolies are bad. Here's why they're bad. Look, right now, people in many cases can't even leave their house. They've got a condition, or the risk of getting this creepy crud are just way too great, so they rely on a delivery service. Well, the delivery services are now realizing, hey, we've got full power over this. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to charge an exorbitant fee on the consumer, and what are they going to do? They can't do anything about it. This is, by the way, a sneak preview of what happens if Uber kills Lyft and becomes the only rideshare service. This is what happens if Amazon kills retail stores and becomes the only dominant website out there. This is what will happen if Netflix becomes the only streaming service, if Xbox or PlayStation become the only video game console out there. Monopolies are not good. You're getting a taste of it right now. Now, here's the thing. They said this made it harder to keep tables full even before the pandemic wiped out most dining in restaurants, at least temporarily. Quote, plaintiffs bring this claim for relief on behalf of all Americans who would still like to enjoy a nice dinner out with their family before defendants make that impossible. So they're worried, and probably rightfully so, that if left unchecked, Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, and full disclosure, I do have a share of stock in Grubhub. I used a DoorDash settlement check to buy it, which was a joke and now it's doing really well, but I should be upfront about that. They're afraid all these companies are slowly inching their ways to just taking more and more advantage of the situation. Now, some might say this is not a true monopoly, because you might notice there's 4 services, and there's actually even more. You throw in Shipt, you throw in Caviar, which technically DoorDash owns, you throw in Slice, a app that specializes in delivering pizza. Yeah, that they're making an app for everything, truly. Then it's not really a monopoly. However, there does seem to be at least some collusion in the sense that the pricing for the markups are all very, very similar. Now, whether or not they can actually prove that, I don't know. Whether or not they can prove anything, because they probably won't even get to court. That is just how it's going on. So, here's the thing. No one has really responded, but the lawsuit seeks triple damages, including for overcharges since April 14th, 2016 for dine-in delivery customers in the United States at restaurants using the defendant's delivery apps. The case is, I don't know how to pronounce that. Davitashvili, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. Versus Grubhub, etc. All at the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, number 20-3000. So if you want to look at that lawsuit, this is what you're essentially looking up. However, while this is all good and fascinating, and I'm sure you'll agree, a lot of you probably are not tuning into this video to find out what's going on with Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, and Uber, because guess what? Yeah, they suck, but they've always sucked, and they always get sued. So what's the story? Well, here's really the big story. Tripp is being sued by the former CTO, Taha Abbasi, who, full disclosure, I've had on my channel, and he has been very nice to me. It's largely because of him I gave Tripp the benefit of the doubt for so long. And Nick Adio, who I frankly don't know what he did at Tripp. However, they are suing Tripp. Now, they have like a 2-hour long live stream or something at what's their channel name? Tripp Rides Lawsuit. Oh, I didn't subscribe to them. Okay, let's subscribe so that I can definitely be made aware. Oh, and I should also ring the bell notification, which you can do for my channel, by the way, if you have not done so already, so that I can get all the notifications about Tripp Rides lawsuits. But apparently, from what little I've perused, there has been some mismanagement of funds. There's been some deception about the safety of the app itself. There's been some shenanigans going on behind scenes, allegedly, and they are going to sue Tripp. Now, here's the thing. I'm almost guaranteeing you that some of you are watching this and you want to believe in Tripp so badly that you're saying, well, they just couldn't bring it to the finish line. They didn't know what they were doing. So Tripp will be fine. They're the future, guys. Tripp is almost certainly, I want to be careful about how I word this, but they're almost certainly a scam at this point. The way you know this is you look at what the CTO is doing. The CTO left the company a couple months ago, if I have the timeline in my head. They are now suing Tripp because I suspect they probably did not get, I don't know for sure, but there were probably promises made that were not fulfilled, and there were probably some things that were said publicly that these two realized they couldn't have their name attached to, because if it ever came out, there'd be problems. Now, they're going to bring it out themselves, maybe. And here's the thing. Tripp has been talking about how they have been going on for like a couple of years. They hyped up the Miami launch thing like very, very heavily, and then didn't talk about it after that because basically it wasn't a real launch. It was just the CEO taking a picture ride, which is where they get into the car and they say, see, victory, but there's no actual working product. In fact, funny story, I won't say who I talked to, but there was another UberTuber who did believe heavily in Tripp, I won't say who it is again, who was invited to this thing by the CEO, specifically to be part of this launch presentation, and they started the presentation like an hour earlier or something like that than they were planning, and he was still in his hotel room when he realized they were giving out the first ride, which he was supposed to be a part of. So he lost out on some advertising, some free publicity, and it kind of made him wonder whether or not the company really had his best interest at heart. He might have actually dodged a bullet by not being part of the launch, if you will. So anyway, they are suing Tripp, and I just have to say, it sure seems over at this point. Look, normally a lawsuit is not the end of anyone, but in Tripp's case, I think we have to be pretty frank. The curtains have been pulled back. It's almost certainly a scam. It's been going on for years. They're still not producing any rides. They have a somewhat functioning app that you still can't actually use. A lot of people have paid money to be part of this, have not gotten anything back for that money. But when you bought into it, like that whole, triangle-like method where you keep recommending people and you get more money the more you recommend, the big triangle thing that's going on, I'll just say, was, I think, the main reason a lot of people pushed it as hard as they did, because that's what it became. But they weren't actually producing rides. Now, you don't have to take my word for it, because I think I've done a pretty good job being neutral on the subject. Like, hey, I wish for the best, but I have my personal doubts. And I've had Taha on the channel, and I've gone to the meetings. They don't realize I'm going to the meetings because I do it in stealth mode, but I go to the meetings. I've tried to be fair about this, but if you don't believe me, believe this guy. This is, that's Greg. He changed his name. And Greg, for the record, has called people like me and Mark and Dustin and everyone who voiced concerns about Tripp stupid, ignorant. We just didn't get it. Tripp is real. You don't understand what's going on. That was him. He was ragging on us the whole time. That Tripp was, hey, this is a great thing. What's his response now? Let's see.
Well, guys, this is a video that I did not want to make, but let's talk about it. Tripp is over. Well, at least for me, I'm pretty much done with it.
There you go. Biggest Tripp supporter in the world. I can't think of anyone who supported Tripp more than maybe the CEO. And he's pretty much saying, nope, it's over. It's over. Throw in the towel. Not going to happen. This Tripp thing ended up being really sad in the long run, because here's the thing. I understand why people got behind it so heavily. I can even to a certain extent understand why people are still trying to get behind it. It's because Uber and Lyft suck so much that we want any solution. We want any alternative. But this was never going to work. I mean, you don't start launching a product, you don't start charging people for something before it's actually finished. And you never pay money for something that isn't finished unless you're pre-ordering a game at GameStop or Amazon, and you can easily get your money back if you change your mind about it. That's not what happened here. I think a lot of people got ripped off, and I think people will unfortunately continue to be ripped off. I am actually even predicting many comments from Tripp riders saying, Tripp's the future, we need something other than Uber. It's like, yeah, we do need something other than Uber. This isn't it. And you know what? I don't know if we're ever going to get that other thing, because the only way that a company can actually come around and give the drivers what they want, what they deserve really, would be to essentially admit defeat to Uber and Lyft before they even begin. That's it. There's really no way you can get around it at this point. So Uber and Lyft are way too cheap. They're way too prevalent. You can't say, well, we're going to pay you better, but we're going to pay you because people are going to pay like a Costco-like membership or something. Can't do that. People aren't going to pay for that. Uber and Lyft have those services. So it's kind of a shame. that so many people got wrapped up in this, and I'm going to be following the lawsuit closely, or as close as I can. You might notice I'm doing other things on the channel. I'm not doing rideshare all the time because I can't make videos about that all the time anymore, but you know, I definitely wanted to talk about this one. So anyway, by the way, Greg, not gonna start drama. Don't worry, I'm not mad at you. I forgive you for all the things you said. You got caught up too, but you know, I hope there's a lesson in this about being over enthusiastic about these things. So anyway, that's where I am gonna leave this. What do you think? Do you still believe in Tripp? Do you not? What about the legal fights with Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates? Do you think they deserve what they're getting? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.